Everything was quiet until it suddenly was not. And if you stay with this until the very end, you are going to witness how a single pattern of messages turned into a moment that could change everything between Shen Yue and Dylan Wang, because what seemed like nothing more than constant notifications has now become the center of attention that no one saw coming. And the question you need to ask yourself right now is this: would you walk away if silence was replaced by something you could not ignore? At first it was subtle, not loud, not dramatic. Just a series of moments that felt slightly off. Shen Yue would glance at a phone screen and pause just a little longer than usual. Conversations that once flowed easily started to feel measured. Not forced, but careful. As if every word now carried weight it did not have before. Dylan Wang noticed it. Not immediately, but enough times to understand that something had shifted. Because when someone you know well begins to hesitate, the change is impossible to ignore. Still, nothing was said. Not yet. Because sometimes the most powerful conflicts are the ones that build quietly before they finally surface. Then came the moment that changed everything. A late evening. A calm setting. No cameras. No audience. Just two people and a silence that refused to stay silent any longer. The phone lit up again. Another message. Another interruption. And this time Shen Yue did not look away quickly. She held the screen in place for a second longer. Long enough for the moment to become real. Long enough for Dylan Wang to understand that this was not random anymore. It was a pattern. And patterns are never accidental. He asked a simple question. Not aggressive. Not defensive. Just direct. But sometimes the simplest questions create the deepest reactions. Because they require answers that cannot be avoided. Shen Yue did not respond immediately. Her silence was not hesitation. It was decision. Because once something is spoken, it cannot return to where it was before. When she finally looked up, everything about her expression had changed. Not anger, not sadness, but clarity. The kind that only comes after someone has already made a choice internally. And that is when the truth began to surface. Not all at once, but piece by piece. The constant messages, the repeated interruptions, the feeling of something always being present even when it was not physically there. And the name connected to it, Bai Lu. At first, it was explained as nothing. Just communication. Just timing. Just coincidence. But repetition changes meaning. Because what happens once can be ignored. What happens again and again cannot. The room felt smaller as the conversation continued. Not because of space, but because of realization. Dylan Wang listened, carefully, because this was not about defending himself. It was about understanding what had already formed in Shen Yue's mind. And what had formed was not a reaction. It was a conclusion. She was not asking for reassurance. She was stating how the situation had made her feel. And feelings are not arguments. They are outcomes. The tension did not explode. It deepened. Because deep tension is quieter than loud conflict. It stays in the pauses. In the way words are chosen. In the way silence stretches just a little too long. Outside, everything still looked normal. Schedules continued. Appearances remained unchanged. But inside that moment, nothing was the same anymore. Shen Yue finally said what had been building all along. Not dramatically, not loudly, but firmly. She could not continue like this. Not with uncertainty. Not with constant interruption. Not with a presence that seemed to exist between them without ever being acknowledged directly. That statement did not end anything immediately, but it shifted everything. Because once the possibility of walking away is spoken, it becomes real. Dylan Wang did not react the way people might expect. There was no immediate denial. No attempt to dismiss what she said. Instead, there was something more difficult. Acceptance of the situation as it existed. Because denying it would not change what she felt. And what she felt was already shaping her decision. The conversation slowed after that. Not because it was over, but because both of them understood that this was not something that could be resolved in one moment. This was a shift, a turning point, and turning points do not reverse easily. As the night moved forward, the distance between them was no longer physical. It was emotional, subtle, but undeniable. And sometimes that kind of distance is the hardest to close. The question now is not what happened in that moment. It is what happens next, because decisions made in clarity do not fade easily. And silence that follows a moment like this is never empty. It is full of everything that has not been said yet. So if you have followed this far, then you already understand that this story is not just about messages. It is about boundaries, presence, and the quiet realization that something has changed in a way that cannot be ignored. And now you have to ask yourself, if you were in that moment, would you fight to hold on? Or would you choose to walk away? The moment the words were spoken, nothing in that room felt the same anymore, and if you stay with this until the very end, you will understand why what Shen Yue decided next was not just about walking away or staying. It was about finally choosing clarity over confusion in a situation that had been quietly unraveling for far too long. After that night, everything slowed down, not publicly, but privately. Conversations became shorter. Messages became less frequent. And the space between them, the space that used to feel natural and comfortable, now felt unfamiliar. Dylan Wang noticed it immediately, because absence has a way of becoming louder than presence. He tried to reach out the next day, not with long explanations, not with pressure, just a simple message. Something normal, something that could bring things back to what they were. But what used to feel easy now felt distant. Shen Yue read it. She saw every word, but her response came later, much later than it used to. And even when it came, it was different. Short, careful, as if she was choosing every word with intention. Because now every word mattered. Days passed like that, a quiet shift replacing what once felt certain. Outside, nothing changed. Appearances remained the same. Schedules continued. Everything still looked intact. But inside that connection, something had already moved. And once something moves like that, it rarely returns to its original place. Then came the moment neither of them could avoid anymore. A second meeting. Not planned in detail. Not arranged with expectations. But necessary. Because some conversations cannot happen through screens. They need presence. They need to be felt. When they faced each other again, the atmosphere was different. Not tense, but heavy, like something important was waiting to be said, but had not yet found its exact words. Dylan Wang spoke first this time. Not defensively, not urgently, but honestly. He explained what the messages were, why they happened, how they were never meant to create distance. But explanations do not always change how something feels. And Shen Yue listened, carefully, respectfully, but without interruption, because she had already heard enough to understand the situation from her own perspective. When he finished, there was a pause. A long one, the kind that decides everything. And then she spoke, not with emotion, not with anger, but with a calm clarity that carried more weight than anything else. She said she understood what he was saying. But understanding did not change what had already formed inside her. Because what she felt was not about a single moment. It was about a pattern. A presence that had slowly taken space where certainty used to be. And once certainty is replaced, it is very difficult to rebuild. That was the moment everything became real. Not dramatic, not explosive, but final in its own quiet way. Dylan Wang realized then that this was not something he could fix instantly. Not with explanations, not with reassurance. Because what had changed was deeper than that. It was trust in how things felt. And once that shifts, time becomes the only thing that can test whether it can return. Shen Yue looked at him one last time before standing up. Not walking away in anger. Not leaving in pain. But stepping away with intention. Because sometimes the strongest decision is not to stay and fight, but to step back and see what remains when the noise is gone. That was not the end. Not completely. But it was a turning point. A moment where both of them understood that what happens next will not be decided in a single conversation. It will be decided in time, in actions, in whether the space between them closes or continues to grow. And that is where this story leaves us. Not with a clear ending, but with a question that only they can answer. Can something that has shifted quietly be rebuilt just as quietly? Or does the moment of clarity change everything permanently?